My name is Mark Miner. I am an investigative writer and author. In my travels, I've investigated many people and places. Watch as I seek out stories that are typically outside of the box of normal. I am the Seeker.
Alright, hi guys. So I wanted to bring something to you. I've been kind of holding on to this file for quite a while. I believe it has been, excuse me, about 8 years since this incident happened. So I'm going to give you a little introduction, kind of give some advice on some legal things, with this video. And then I'm going to go ahead into the video and let you hear what I taped. So, since I was a kid, I've often had a lot of weird situations happen in my life, which is why I've gotten into this field of parapsychology and even became a writer. And so, I mean, I've done other things with my life, in the medical field and culinary arts and stuff like that. However, this incident really shook me quite a bit. So I was basically put into a situation abruptly, which I will explain into the video, and it really shook me to the core, to the point where when I ended the recording, I actually left my place and stayed the night at a friend's, and then later on got help to take care of the situation after doing some research as well. So again, I'll cover all that in the video. So with that being said, I do want anybody who wants to have a copy of this file, of this, what I call it a ghost interview, but for the sake of this, this episode, I called it an entity visits. I don't know what else to call it. I don't want to get too creative with it, but if you want a copy of the audio file of the whole situation, the whole episode of what happened, just email me and I'll send that to you. I haven't broken down the audio, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I haven't put it on any kind of program to heighten the voices or to make it more clear. I wanted to leave it in its raw form so that you can hear it. Again, I will explain what you will be hearing in the video, but I just want to let you know that if you do want a copy of the audio file, I will send that to you. Alright, I'm not looking to become rich off this. It's just one instance in a million that things like this has happened to me in my life, and I'm 58 years old, or excuse me, 53 years old. So, or I'm in my 50s. Let's just do that, okay? I shouldn't be admitting my age on camera, but that's okay. So, anyways, go ahead and watch the rest of the video, and I hope you enjoy. And I would love to have your comments and the such. So, tell me what you think, okay?
All right, guys. So basically, my whole life I've been insomniac, but this night I was really tired and I laid down to get some sleep. I was renovating a studio apartment in a historic home that was built in 1890, an upstairs apartment, and making it into a one bedroom. So I was in the bedroom area and I was doing like a partition that would divide the bedroom into a hallway with this division in between. That had kind of windows in it in the such to make this more of a one bedroom. And then I had my bed up against that partition so that I was close to one of the windows in the partition that led into the hallway. And this hallway is where a lot of noise was happening, essentially. And so I was having some issues before this incident happened of of little pranks that were done here and there. Like there were times I thought somebody was actually in my house when I was in one of the back rooms and trying to scare me. And then whenever, by saying something or moving something loudly, and I had went throughout the house and nobody was there. There was one time I was taking a shower and it has like a plastic door, and I could clearly see a shadowy figure on the other side of the door, but they were holding the door shut. And I thought it was one of my friends. And I was actually in that shower for 10 minutes before that person released the door and quickly ran away. And I opened the door, grabbed a towel, put it around me, searched the whole house. No, nobody was there, and even my doors were locked. And also to the point to where I would have my feet cut at night. I would feel the cuts on my feet, and I would jerk awake, and nobody was there. But there would be like little steak knives or knives at the on the floor at the foot of my bed. And so little things were happening. I once was in the kitchen and I was just cooking a meal. I think it was dinner. And right over my shoulder, I heard a woman say, "Do you have any gin?" And it startled me. And of course, I turned around, nobody was there. And so I just answered out loud, "No, but I do have some wine." So there were some instances that were going on. However, this night, I went to bed. I fell asleep. I was sleeping very soundly. Also, I might mention as a writer, I keep a camera, a recorder, and a pad and pen on my nightstand, all the time. I still do to this day, although this incident happened 8 years ago. So I was actually woken up by noises, almost as if somebody was breathing very heavily. And it takes a lot to wake me up. I mean, when I'm crashed, I'm out. It just takes me a long time to go to sleep, hence the insomnia. But once I'm down, I'm out. So it must have been pretty loud. So I woke up, I listened for a minute, and I heard like a breathy, deep, menacing voice saying, "Who are you?" That's when I turned around, I grabbed my recorder, and I turned it on. And that's when the tape begins. So I have a little more to tell you before I play this audio tape for you guys, okay? So what you'll hear on the audio tape is that came across on the audio tape. It was a little bit different to me at the moment. So the difference was in the moment, I could clearly hear the words of this entity saying some stuff to me. And it was very argumentative with me. So it was basically asking me at first, "Who are you? Why are you here?" Of course, I was asking the same thing. I always knew from past experience to always get them to admit their name. And if they couldn't, then that usually means you're dealing with a dark entity or something very evil. I refuse to use the word demon because I just don't really believe in that whole, Catholicism, Christian theory of demons and Satan and all that. I really don't believe in all that. And that's okay. And if others do, it's just my belief. So I think of it as a darkness or a dark entity, which these things do exist. However, I didn't know what I was dealing with. The voice sounded very menacing and broody and very breathy. So you'll hear that on the audio. You just won't hear the exact words that I was hearing. You'll hear very audibly, very loudly, the breath of this thing. But to me, it was words. Okay? Also, several times in the taping, if you listen very closely, I'll ask if there's anybody else with this entity. And at one point, you'll hear a man say, "Yeah." And then at another point, if you listen very closely, you'll hear several people, including women, say that they're there. So I don't know how many entities was there that night, but there were quite a few. But I was dealing with this main one. And this main one eventually told me his name was Joseph, but he went by Jojo. So that's why I'm saying Jojo or Joe or Joseph, because I'm trying to trigger this entity to tell me more. It was also telling me that this was his home, that I was not welcome here, that I was to leave, that he lived here. That those are things you don't hear because you'll just hear the breathy part of it. All right. So I want to play the audio tape for you now, and then I'm going to come back on and explain how I resolved this. Okay. So here's the audio tape.
Joe, you need to talk to me, okay? What's going on? Joe. Is there somebody with you? Who is that? Can you tell me your name? I can hear you talking. Can you tell me what your name is? Mark? Why are you here? Is this your home? Did you used to live in this house? How many are there of you?
All right, so you're probably asking me how this got resolved. And this is what happened. So, as I stated before, after I ended this tape, I got up, I left, and I went and spent the night at a friend's. The next day I returned. Nothing was different about the apartment. It still felt pretty heavy. So I actually called a friend of mine who is a psychic, and I had her come over and just kind of ask her to walk through the place and see if she feels anything. She did. She came over. We met in the parking lot, and she went upstairs to the apartment, and as did I. I followed her up, and she walked in, took about 3 or 4 steps, turned around, came back out, and said, "Nope." That's all she said to me. She said, "Nope," and then she went back down the stairs to her car. I followed her and asked her what the problem was, and she said that there was such a dark entity in that apartment, she was not willing to handle that on her own. So she was very nervous, and she wanted to leave, but I kept her there because I wanted to find out how to get this fixed. And so what happened was she got in the car. She said she'll call me tomorrow, and she took off. The next day she did call me and told me that she is bringing 3 or 4 other people with her. Um, One was in the clergy, her as a psychic. One was a medium. One was a shaman, and another was I can't remember what she was called, but she basically just cleansed the area. Um, and they came in and they did their thing. I wasn't allowed in the apartment, and they came out about 45 minutes to an hour later and told me that what was in my apartment was a very dark, dark entity known as Zozo, not Jojo, Zozo. So I had no idea what that was. And so after we had our initial conversation, they gave me the results and said that the apartment was clean and clear. I then went upstairs, got in better clothes, and went and to a historic society, find out what happened at the house, and to find out if there's any major deaths or anything like that. And then went to other organizations to find some information on this Zozo dark entity. So first thing I found out was that there was a man that lived in this house. It used to be a boarding house back in the early 1900s, and the original owners made it into a boarding house with a restaurant downstairs. One of the boarders' names was Joseph. He was a drunk, and he had a very miserable life, and so he committed suicide in that very same apartment I was in by hanging himself in the living room. The owner, I'm kind of paraphrasing. I'm kind of giving you the Reader's Digest version here. The owner got nervous that there's a dead body on his property, so he decided to go up and burn the body while hanging from the rope, which is not a really smart move. So it ended up breaking the rope, and the guy Joseph fell on the floor, burning. And so, the owner put him out and put the fire out on the body, and in darkness of night, took the body out and buried him on the land just outside the house. So when I found this out, of course, I went home and I pulled up the carpet in the living room, and there indeed was a very large burn in the original wood floors of the house. And so I had ground penetrating radar done on the land around the house, and there was and is indeed a body of a man buried now underneath the parking lot. And so the body was exhumed. Of course, the police were called. The body was exhumed. Family was notified. They said they want nothing to do with it. As far as they're concerned, just put the body back. And of course, that's what we did. We put the body back, and everything was resolved legally. So the body is still there with new pavement on top of them. So the other thing is, I found out that Zozo, doing my own research, is a very, 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 very old and ancient entity that goes back to Sumerian days and has been reported to cause a lot of havoc over eons of time. We're talking thousands upon thousands of years. And how he, she, it, whatever, ended up in my apartment, no clue. But it went away, and I'm glad to say that since then, nothing that dark has happened to me. I'm still in the house. It's been 8 years later. I'm still in the house. However, I'm in an apartment downstairs now. And there are instances that still happen, as far as like hearing voices, you hear walking at night, water gets turned on, the typical stuff. But everybody here is pretty comfortable with it. There's 5 apartments in this house, and everybody's pretty comfortable with it. And we're living very peacefully. So there's the whole story, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. It's very nervous for me. I'm very nervous, I should say, about putting this out there because I've hid it for so long. But just kind of wanted to share it. So let me know what you think, and I'm going to end this episode here. So you guys remember to stay weird, and I will see you on the very next episode. Thank you, guys.